Lloyd Vance does a great job covering the NFL, correspondent for the NFL Network. Great follow on Twitter, Pro Football Writers Association of America as well. Kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda hotline on this Tuesday after. A couple days to absorb it and a lot of stuff to dive into. How you been, pal?
Oh, it's just incredible. Team Destiny beat Team Dynasty. They got it done.
Yeah.
Got it done,
yeah,
man.
But it's so funny. No one wants to hear that, right? You get killed on the air when you say something like that. I mean, it's just sometimes you watch the game unfold, and I think a lot of people late in that game, if you're an Eagles fan and you're kidding yourself and lying to yourself, if you didn't watch the game unfold late and say, "Oh, we'll be okay," even if the Patriots get the ball back, you weren't thinking that. I don't care. You're full of BS if you try to tell me anything differently, right? But in this case, it's a different outcome, and you get the strip sack, and then boom, reminding me the last couple plays in 2007. That ball is hanging up in the air forever. But ultimately, dugout coach Bill, and the Eagles were just the better team that night. And oh, by the way, the Patriots' defense was horrible.
Yeah, neither. There was a lot of defense out there, and the offense is going up and down the field. And as you were saying, I think the gutsiness of Peterson as well as Nick Foles on third down, in particularly 10 of 16, and on fourth down, of course, with that huge play, 2 for 2 on fourth downs. They just went for it. They did not hold back.
Yep.
They weren't punting the football. They seized their moment, and it became a scoring match, which we always thought, you don't want to get a scoring match with Brady because you just can't outdo him. But they found a way to get it done, and as you say, Brandon Graham with that huge strip sack just lifted the whole city up by the Eagles' wings.
Yeah, listen, that'll be the play that sealed it. But to me, that's not the play of the game. I mean, it is in essence, yes. But when you think back to that game, to me, it's a fourth down call. It's the Philly special call. It's going for it on fourth down. I said this during the monologue. You have a backup quarterback. You have an undrafted free agent running back who pitches it to a third-string tight end who then throws a touchdown pass to a backup quarterback. I mean, to me, that play will live in Philadelphia sports law. And I'll tell you, that play doesn't happen. They don't get it. You're saying, then I don't even want to think about what's going on. But it just so happened that that's a play they picked up. I believe it was the Bears and the Vikings last year. They practiced it in the hotel lobby. Nick went over to Doug and said, "What do you think?" He called up the play, and boom, the rest, as they say, is history.
Definitely, and these guys, they seized the moment. And then later on in the game, at the 45-yard line, 5:39 on the clock, 4th and 1.
Yep. Most
people, are going to be conservative. They're going to punt it in, but once again, aggressive, and it paid off. So the Eagles during the season had 17 fourth down conversions, the most in the league, and they continued to just be aggressive and not be afraid of the Patriots. Let's face it, the Patriots defense, they weren't stopping anybody, and then not having Malcolm Butler out there, they just got worse and worse. A lot of holes for the Eagles to pick them apart on his crossing patterns, throwing the ball to running backs, particularly Corey Clement, who came out of Wisconsin not known for his hands, but he really stepped up. And then Zach Ertz, you just can't talk enough about him. He was just explosive, making key first down after first down, and then he gets this huge touchdown to get the lead.
When I went back and watched the game again, first of all, Corey's touch, it was a great throw by Foles, but it went back to something we talked about. You never want the game to be decided, a catch or no catch. You still can't figure it out, whether he bobbled, whether his left foot hit the chalk. But then the Ertz play, a lot of people fail to realize once he catches it, now all of a sudden he's a runner. I mean, can you imagine? I saw Jesse James tweet it, yeah, that's a catch and a touchdown. Can you imagine, though, if one of those plays, now you're talking about taking 14 points off the board?
Yeah, and the whole time with Collinsworth waxing about how they're going to overturn.
He had a rough night.
And to the disgust of everybody in the Philadelphia area. But, we all question this in the media, fans. You wonder what is a catch, what's not a catch, and they're going to explore these rules coming up to owners' meetings. But like you, Q, I was glad that they let it decide on the field and didn't overturn it. Too big of a stage, 10th all-time broadcast in terms of population watching the game, and just let the guys figure it out. And I thought they did a nice job there. Overall, the officials did stay out of the game pretty much.
Are we ever going to get a clear-cut explanation of why Malcolm Butler was benched? I mean, if Belichick is going to stick to his guns and he broke curfew, and, again, had a bad week of practice, and he was sick leading up to certain things. Okay. But if I'm a player and I'm saying to my defensive player, I'm looking around saying, we got to get to, tell the coach secondary needs some help. We're getting torched out here. I mean, you're not going to bench a guy, not stick him in the Super Bowl out of spite. If you do that, that takes stones.
It certainly does, and it's almost a bit of arrogance on the Patriots' part. Let's face it. They had a very good cornerback combination with Gilmore and Butler all season, and they were getting it done, particularly against Jacksonville. They looked pretty strong out there, and I know you want to send a message to the team that you're the one, you're in charge, but once he was out of the game, you knew the Eagles knew how to attack Eric Rowe, a guy who was on the Eagles, and they kind of jettisoned him. They just attacked him over and over again because very long corner, but he does not have that type of speed to run with a lot of the receivers and backs out there. So it was very interesting, and you were just wondering throughout the second half, all right, are they going to put him in? Because the Eagles just seemed unstoppable, and all the passes were finding the receivers.
Listen, if that game's 5 minutes longer, who knows what happens, but their defense didn't do anything the whole game. But what they did is make a play late, and if you look at their numbers in the fourth quarter, 2 minutes to go in the game, they have just played lockdown defense, the Philadelphia Eagles, that is. Now, boom, what happens, right? You get that play, you get the strip sack, all is well. But I was surprised that Brady was able to just dissect these guys. We knew New England had no pass rush, but I was a little surprised that Schwartz and that defense, they did not get to Brady as much as I thought they would. They knocked him around a little bit, but the sacks, we didn't see anything.
Yeah, and he was very comfortable back there. He was, you guys throws for over 500 yards in the game, and you just don't think it's unimaginable that he would lose in that situation. Brady now 10-2 when he throws for over 400 yards. So, they were getting the yardage, particularly in the beginning of that second half, where he just went to Gronk over and over again on that first drive and kind of was like, okay, this is what you're going to see going forward. But the Eagles defense stayed the course, and then the offense, they really got to tip their cap to those guys because every time there was a Patriots score, they answered right back. So, a very exciting game.
All right, Lloyd Vance joining us a couple minutes on this Tuesday inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, 97.3 Middays with Q. And, of course, Lloyd joining us courtesy of the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. You saw the game, the performance that Foles had, one for the ages, no doubt. You have to give him all the credit in the world. They're in a good spot, though. It's not a controversy. I deem it a dilemma because now you've got an opportunity, fresh off a Super Bowl MVP, a Super Bowl winning MVP. He's at the height of his markability. So now if a team calls up, I still would not give up a first-round draft pick. I just wouldn't. But there's probably it could be the Jets that all of a sudden they're gung-ho and they're saying to themselves, wow, this is the quarterback we need. I'm sure there have been calls put in, but if you're the Eagles, do you kind of just absorb it, stand pat right now, and just play it as it comes? Or are you going to start to really consider fielding some calls to see what's out there? Because if you're not 100% Lloyd that Carson Wentz is going to be 100%, come August, September, at least you have a nice plan B.
Yeah, and everyone I've talked to around the team, I think this is what they're going to do. They're just going to enjoy this and kind of figure out as they go. But I think what they're going to do is kind of wait for the Combine, which is coming up at the end of February into March, and kind of talk to teams at that event. And if they really can, they're going to try to retain Nick Foles. I know it's $7 million, is a lot for a backup quarterback, but he showed he could step in and take over. And as you're saying, Wentz, we're still not sure if he's going to be able to come back strong. So I think they go to the Combine and through the draft, maybe grab somebody younger, see what they can bring him in as a developmental type, and then see if maybe a Teddy Bridgewater situation comes up or another team doesn't get the quarterback they want in free agency and then pulls the trigger. But I think Foles is going to be an Eagle for quite a while in this offseason.
McDaniel's stock certainly rose. Patricia's stock drastically went down. I mean, it bottomed out like the market has been over the last couple of weeks. If you're the Lions, you might be saying to yourself, uh-oh. Right? I mean, their defense, for the most part, just under 20 points a game. But, I mean, that offensive line of the Eagles, and I said this, that game is going to be one of lost in the trenches. They absolutely dominated inside against the New England Patriots and that front four and their defense. But if you're Patricia, I mean, my goodness, you go into that Lions, you think any defensive player's got some confidence right now?
Yeah, he made zero adjustments out there. I know we talked about the Butler situation, but I think James Harrison, at his age of 39, he just was not prepared to play as much as they wanted him to. He missed a lot of key tackles in that game, particularly on a couple third downs.
Good point.
And Patricia, I know he was the hot name out there, but unfortunately, when you're in a game where the other team is getting over 500 yards and they win it, they didn't make the stops when they needed to. I know they got that kind of fluky interception, but other than that, that defense was not making plays against the Eagles, and the Eagles had no fear, whether it was running the football with Blunt and Ajayi or throwing the football on his crossing route. So, hopefully he can pick it up. But Bob Quinn, that seems to be his guy. And I'm hearing there's a lot of change that's going to be around the Patriots. A lot of the assistants may go with Patricia. They may go with McDaniels to the Colts. So it's going to be an interesting situation this offseason for the Patriots as well.
Do you suspect we'll ever know what happened with Butler? Do you suspect that because he's a pending free agent, so a lot of people think he owes it to potential teams out there that might covet him to explain himself, when yet Belichick's really not saying anything? I mean, more importantly, let me ask you this. Is this the one time with the Patriots that maybe, and no excuses whatsoever, the Eagles flat out beat them Sunday? You know how sometimes people misconstrue things? I'm wondering, is this the one time, though, where maybe the distractions got to them?
Well, I think we'll have to wait till the America's game to see if Butler will tell his side of the story. But it's going to have to be back channel stuff. We know Belichick's not getting anything. I just was watching the two Bills 30 for 30, and he's so tight-lipped throughout his career, and I don't see that changing in this situation. Butler is going to have to explain himself. Maybe when he lands on his feet with another team, he'll feel like he can tell his side of the story. But they did miss them. But in the end, you got to tip your cap to the Eagles. A huge situation for their franchise, for their fans, for their owner to step up and seize the moment. It was not pretty in terms of defensive battle, but they put the points up there, and they just kept being aggressive, and they got the job done.
Yeah, and it's a scary proposition for the rest of the NFC East, right? You look at these other teams now, and the Eagles have joined that brotherhood of winning a championship, but they're young, right? They've got core players locked up. They got a team now that knows how to win, that overcomes adversity. That's a scary proposition when you look forward to the next several years going forward, especially with the Giants in flux. You got Washington now has Alex Smith, and then you have the Dallas Cowboys, and they regressed 13 wins to not making the playoffs. So it could be the Eagles division. I know it's early to say, but they can dominate this division for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and we saw with the Patriots, it's difficult to repeat, but I fully expect the Eagles to be back right near the top of the NFC East next season. And it's all about Doug Peterson, and he has his team in his locker room believing in his message. And right now, he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. And, with that formula, they could go pretty far. So it's going to be fun times here in Philadelphia. I know all the Eagles fans I heard from that when I picked the Patriots, they're going to be very happy in the next couple of years rooting for this team.
Sometimes, it's that reverse mush. I'm still getting text messages and bombarded with text message and calls. I had people come out of the woodwork yesterday and break the stones. But you know what? You got to take the bullets when they're fired at you. And the funny thing, I'll say this in closing. So many Eagles fans were so down on Doug. It wasn't the pick they wanted. They weren't enamored with it. Oh, I hope this guy's not like Andy. And now all of a sudden, listen, him and Nick Foles, right? They have a key to the city. Isn't it amazing how you just got to let some things play out?
Yeah, sports is incredible like that. This is very improbable, especially thinking after that Rams game, everybody said they're done, Wentz is hurt, and they just kept fighting, and next thing you know, they're in the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl.
Sometimes it's hard for me to even repeat it.
The Eagles Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, you do it.
And for my cousin who's listening, who berated me, Eagles Super Bowl champion.
There you go.
You were right. I was wrong.
Hey, you know what? There's once in a while, right? It's okay to be wrong. Sometimes, like Giselle said, sometimes the other team has to win too, right? And they didn't. They earned it. They flat out went out and earned it. I'll tell you how many times. I know I got to let you get out of here. You think Brady's going to keep watching that highlight of that ball coming off his fingertips? Think about this: in a game where we're talking about what quarterback can make a play, it's one quarterback who catches the football and the other quarterback who drops the football.
Just a crazy game with a lot of points and a lot of yards. And the Eagles are dancing down Broad Street.
Yep. All right, listen, we will catch up next week. We'll start to dive into the offseason, believe it or not. We'll put a bow on everything that's transpired throughout the season, but always appreciate you jumping on board, pal.
All right, thanks for having me on.